There's a third concept that we have to deal with in our bureaucracies, and that concept helps us to make them more efficient and less costly. And the concept is the desire of bureaucracies to create a massive amount of useless paperwork as a means of proving that the work to be accomplished is truly accomplished. What they're saying is, basically they say, get rid of the paperwork. The only acceptable paperwork is the application for the project being whatever the bureaucracy is there for, and the application is whoever wants them to do something, be it the nation or a business or an individual. And the second thing that you'd have as acceptable paperwork is the investigator's report. We didn't say a lot about investigators in a bureaucracy, but again, they say the same thing they've said before, and that is get out of the office into the field and investigate. Get rid of the desk sitters who do nothing but harass and produce paperwork, of course. Along with that concept goes the concept of testing. A testing unit in all bureaucracies, they say that you should have a testing unit in all bureaucracies that just create and give tests that validate a given job or piece of work is being done. Get rid of the intelligence games by validating the results. Not supposed, but real results. Again, the public trust position. So they're going to get rid of the paperwork. They're going to make the people who are in the office, probably rehire, but make the people that are in the office get out on the street and investigate, see who's doing what, see if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then the paperwork that you have is basically an application for the job or project or service, and the investigator's report. So, and they say that investigating report is another public trust position. And then they go into one last thing. There's a need to be a system. There needs to be a system or code that spells out how bureaucratic employees treat the public and how the public acts when dealing with the bureaucracy, be it private or government employee. That code must include real reprimands up to and including loss of a job or even jail time for the employee. No slap on the wrist and a chuckle here anymore. For the public, there must be a means of enforcing that code, which can also include jail time if needed. Now, as you see more of this concept below, you'll notice a need to change your view about the freedom that you have or your personal rights when you're out in public. When in a public situation, you will see the need for less freedom in public and a code of action that is enforced. We don't need to put up with an arrogant bureaucratic employee, nor does a bureaucratic employee, on the other hand, have to put up with a ranting and raving individual. In the discussion on getting out into society or out into the public, there are going to be restrictions that we don't have now. They're going to give you tremendous freedom in the home and tremendous freedom in the semi-public places. But in the public places, they're going to develop a code and enforce it. And that code relates to the bureaucrat no longer being... You understand, if you've dealt with bureaucrats, you know exactly what they're saying. No more treating you like an idiot. And then on the other side of that, of course, the public can't be screaming and hollering at a bureaucrat. You're in public, the code's different, and they're going to enforce it. So now we have gone through and covered three concepts that cause so much trouble in our bureaucracy. Let's go to review. We have pointed out three problem areas that flow through the whole of our society, corrupting all they touch. We have pointed at those who would play the intelligence game, showing you how it works, and suggested ways to eliminate it from your society. It is like another tax someone would place on you just because you aren't as smart as they are. So we have these game players and they're saying a tax, but basically they charge you more and charge you more for these stupid games that they have. And they that we're talking that they're talking about here are saying no, it's enough. We need to change the rules so that these things work, and they can't charge you all these ridiculous things for the games that they play. I mean, when you look at it, you'll recognize that they're not doing anything that's productive. These people are getting a lot of money, but they're not doing anything that's productive. They're not doing anything that helps. They're not doing anything that you need. So that's the first area. They also say we cover the do-gooders and their influence in our society. With just a little adjustment, even those could begin to move on and out of this system. Sometimes it just takes some explanation. Then we have discussed bureaucracies, what they really were and how they worked and how to control them. Again, we made them accountable for their work and asked them to prove their ability as a unit. We have to know where we are going and what we expect when we get there if we're going to ask the bureaucracy to work for us. If the bureaucracy fails to reach our expectations, they will be cut until they accomplish what was requested. Then, to make a bureaucracy more efficient, less costly, and less disruptive to our lives, and that's a big key. We're going to make all bureaucracies way less disruptive to our lives. We suggested the exception group to solve the extraordinary problems that arise in any dealing with a small segment of the public, which are the troublemakers or the people that we really need to pay attention to. We also offered a means of eliminating the abuse of power by those who are in a position of public trust. We then suggested 2 units to investigate and test the bureaucracy. These will keep the worst bureaucracies honest as compared to what we see now, and they constantly are telling you that. Don't judge anything by some extraneous judgment. Take a look at what's going on right now and then compare what they're saying. And is the change, you're going to see a change, it's an improvement as compared to now. They go on and say there will be the check on the accountability of both the bureaucracy and its members, which was a need we discussed above. Also discussed was a code of conduct for both the employee and the public that was enforceable. Where do we go from here? There's one thing we need to go through before we go into the specific areas of this book, and we say it for now because it's the most important part of this whole book. This is the most important part of the whole book. Why? Because if you don't have this, none of it's going to work. And when you have this part that's coming up, you can see that, well, if we had that, it probably would work. And that's what they're saying is, it's kind of a 2-part thing. If you see this and see what it is, you're going to see that it works. And if it does work, then you can see that all the rest of it's going to happen. You got this one little part, so let's get into that. The part is called the People's Trust News. And they say the People's Trust News is the most important concept in the whole of Book 4. We'd like to go into it this way, and this is what they're going to do, is they're going to show you why. What they ask is, what are the problems? Your children are living with you, or they had to move away from you because they couldn't find a job. They're either too close to you or too far away. Your children, that's the first one. Your children are not being educated to do anything but work for corporate America. Ooh. Your children and grandchildren are strapped with a tremendous government debt that they can never reasonably repay. Boy, especially lately. The debt will destroy your children's hope for the future, and their children will be doubly destroyed because their parents, which are your children, will raise them with no hope. So your grandchildren are going to be worse off than your children, because your children will be saying, gee, you're going to owe a lot of money, and no matter what you make, you're not going to live good. you're not going to live as good as we did because you have to pay this debt off. So it's a negative thing. They go on and say at least 1/3 of your retirement was stolen. Ooh. When you have a stock market crash and you have the things that we saw here with the debt, the payment to the banks, and the fiasco that we just went through, probably more than 1/3 of your retirement stolen. But anyway, they're saying stolen. And what they asked was, what are the problems? So that's certainly a problem. Everything costs so much more because the Federal Reserve is printing money they do not have. Nothing you want from government is being passed for you. Everything big corporations want is being passed for them. Boy, if you look around just a little bit, you can see that's true. The military-industrial complex is robbing from us at an almost insane rate. No, that's not true. They are robbing us at a totally insane rate. So there are some indications, there are some things that show you what the problems are. In our monetary depression, we lost our home, we lost our job, we lost our money hand over fist, we lost our marriages, and some even lost our lives. And on top of that, we have if you're still alive anyway, you have an enormous government debt to deal with. In their depression, and that was the same depression that we're talking about, the one we just had here, the big banks got a bailout. The rich got tremendously richer with record profits and an insane amount of income. Those are the problems you can see, and there's so many more. We see the simple fact that we're no longer being helped, schooled, or even being made aware of the reason why we're here. We are not progressing with our choices because we don't even know we're here only to make those choices. What can we do? The need is to clearly understand what it is we need to have happen. We need to get control of the schools, the government, the corporations, the banks, the stock market, and all those agencies that affect our life. We need to change the motivation of each one of them so they begin to work for the welfare of every man, woman, and child in the United States rather than the overcharger's pocketbook. We do not let fathers steal loaves of bread for their starving family or steal shoes for his barefoot daughter, but we will allow the overcharges to steal trillions of dollars from those very same fathers and all of us as well. Are we insane? Are we insane? We put a man in prison for trying to feed his family because the overcharges took his job away, and yet we will allow and even promote the increase of wealth for the rich. We put a man in prison for trying to feed his family because these overcharges that we're talking about took this guy's job away. He hasn't got a job, can't feed his family, stole a loaf of bread, they throw him in jail. Yet we allow or even promote the increased wealth for the rich. You know that's true because of the big bank bailout scam and the ever-increasing income for the rich. You know that very soon, if something doesn't change, we will be at war with ourselves. We will be shooting our sons and daughters who are in the police force, armed forces, or anybody that tries to resolve the Civil War. It could be the Army themselves. And others say, you do the research on our Civil War that we had. Nobody wants to go through that again. That was insane. So they go on and say we have no idea what to do about the problems. Frustration will take hold, and our second Civil War will start. Those who caused all this mess will drink their tea, smile, and shake their heads as they safely hide behind their guarded walls. We do not know how to fix the long list of problems in this country. We constantly try various approaches to the problem that plague our great nation, but they have little lasting success. Look at all the things that have been tried, the March on Wall Street and the all the things that people try and have absolutely no effect. So what they're saying is, got a long list of problems, we're going to have a civil war, which is kind of why they're saying this thing is so critical. They keep indicating, and if you look at it, you can see it, we're going to have a civil war. We're going to be fighting our government. You're going to fight the police officers, which are your brothers and sisters and uncles and the aunts, and they're people that we hired to be police officers, and they'll be told you either shoot these civilians or you don't have a job. So that's the way it works. If you don't have enough sense to realize what's coming, that's the way it works. You're going to have first the police, and then you're going to have the federal government officers, and then you're going to have the federal government army, and you're not going to win. But in the meantime, you're going to kill these people who really are in the same boat you're in, and the people who caused it all. I'm going to read that again. Those who cause all this mess will drink their tea, smile, shake their heads as they safely hide behind their guarded walls.